Maybe we hit a time, Eddie.
Or maybe Janal's coordinates weren't as empty.
Spoiler warning. In Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 4, Face the Strange, Captain Michael Burnham and Commander Rayner are propelled through time, traveling through the past, present, and future of the USS Discovery. Director Lee Rose and writer Sean Cochran's Face the Strange show how much Burnham and Commander Paul Stamets have changed since the first season of Discovery. In addition, it's a chance for Burnham and her new number one, Rayner, to collaborate as a team for the first time since they are in a literal race against time to restart Discovery's search for the Progenitors' riches. Face the Strange discloses that at the conclusion of Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 3, Moll implanted a Krenim time bug in Ensign Adira Tal. Once the time bug has infiltrated the USS Discovery systems, it locks the crew in their own past and alternates the ship between the past, present, and future at random, allowing Moll and Lack to search for the next clue. Unfazed, Burnham, Rayner, and Stamets collaborate to return the USS Discovery to the 32nd century in time to prevent Moll and Lack from finishing the next leg of the treasure hunt.
Hang in there. Just a few more seconds.
Subscribe to Movie Spy for more twist videos. How Burnham, Rayner, and Stamets outperformed Star Trek. An explanation of Discovery's time bug. One especially unpleasant piece of temporal technology that proves difficult for Burnham, Rayner, and Stamets to overcome is the time bug in Star Trek Discovery. Because time is passing quickly inside the surrounding area, their initial attempt to negate the device fails. It will take only a few seconds for anyone that enters the field to eliminate the time glitch. So Stamets will have to devise a far riskier plan. Reducing the flow of time in the surrounding area is the key to escaping the time bug, but in order to do so, the USS Discovery must rupture the warp bubble and cause relativity to deviate. The warp bubble shields the crews of Star Trek starships from relativity while they are traveling faster than the speed of light. The time bug has less time to acclimate to relative time outside the USS Discovery when the warp bubble is abruptly broken. This would allow Rayner to remove the time glitch by temporarily weakening the surrounding field. The primary problem with Commander Paul Stamets' plan was that, in terms of Burnham's status on the USS Discovery, the time-traveling trio was at the worst possible period. Burnham, Rayner, and Stamets traveled back in time to a time before Michael was considered a dangerous mutineer in Star Trek Discovery Season 1. This was made possible by the time bug's final cycle. Burnham needed to get to the bridge, battle, and render her younger self helpless, and then persuade the bridge crew to obey their future captain in order for Stamets' scheme to succeed. The time bug in Star Trek Discovery has a Voyager connection. The time bug, according to Commander Rayner, is a Krenim chronophage that was abandoned during Star Trek's temporal wars. The highly developed race known as the Krenim was originally presented in the Year of Hell two-part episode from Star Trek, Voyager's 4th season. The first encounter between the USS Voyager and the Krenim went so drastically wrong that it spawned an alternate future in which most of the crew of the ship perished. In order to change history, this compelled Captain Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, to make the ultimate sacrifice. The Krenim, who originated in the Delta Quadrant, possessed terrible temporal weapons that could wipe out entire species. Even though the time bug in Star Trek Discovery is significantly smaller, it may still have a terrible effect on its victims, as demonstrated by what will happen if Moll and Lack manage to obtain the Progenitors' technology. On Star Trek Discovery, Burnham and Stamets' time travel demonstrates how much they have changed. Although Burnham and Stamets are made to revisit some upsetting events from their pasts, these encounters serve as a reminder to viewers of how far the Star Trek Discovery cast has gone. In order to quickly vacate engineering, Stamets comically revisits his harsher, snarkier previous self from Discovery Season 1. It's a lighthearted look back at Stamets' past, before his tardigrade DNA turned him into a more gentle man who was a better father figure to Adira and a better husband to Dr. Hugh Culber. The one problem with Stamets' tardigrade DNA, though, is that he still feels the anguish of being impaled in the battle of control. In addition, Rayner's encouraging remarks and the Krenim time bug serve as a welcome reminder of Burnham's progress. Rayner tells her not to give up in the face of their dismal alternative destiny, just as she never did on her journey from prisoner to starship captain. A powerful validation of her path between Star Trek Discovery Seasons 1 and 5 comes from Captain Burnham rousing the crew on the same day that her younger self boarded as a prisoner. When Burnham sees Booker's former self right after getting out of the shower, she also has the opportunity to consider their relationship. It appears that Burnham's uneasiness around Book stems more from her repression of her attraction than from her attempt to avert fate. It's yet another indication that Burnham and Book's romance in Star Trek Discovery is far from over. The greatest short Trek mystery is finally solved in Star Trek Discovery. A soldier named Kraft was picked up by the USS Discovery in the beloved short Trek after his escape pod drifted through space for a month. Zora, who had been abandoned by the USS Discovery millennia before, and craft grew close. Although the showrunners had promised that Calypso would appear later in the series, fans had been speculating for years about where the character fit into the Star Trek Discovery timeline. The solution is now given in Face the Strange, Episode 5 of Discovery Season 5. Calypso is set in an alternative history of the 42nd century, set a millennium after the technology of the Progenitors was misappropriated. By traveling into the future, Burnham and Rayner demonstrate how Breen from Star Trek Deep Space Nine was able to obtain the technology from the Progenitors and utilize it to destroy the Federation and Starfleet. Zora begs Burnham and Rayner to alter the course of events as they gaze out at a destroyed Federation headquarters while the USS Discovery hovers in orbit. A Calypso rendition of Doris Day's K. Sarah Sarah is used in Star Trek Discovery to subtly confirm that Zora was abandoned for a millennium prior to Star Trek Short Treks. Was Arium's Season 2 sacrifice retcon in Star Trek Discovery? Captain Burnham states that Lieutenant Commander Arium is willing to give her life in order to save her crewmates while persuading the USS Discovery's crew to assist her in her plot to return to the 32nd century. Since Arium is aware that Burnham would give her life in those situations, she accepts her awareness of what lies ahead. Arium is ultimately persuaded to follow Burnham's instructions and bursts the warp bubble by her understanding of her own future. Under normal conditions, Arium would give up her life in Star Trek Discovery Season 2 because she knows she must, according to information revealed to her by a time-traveling Burnham. However, Burnham telling Arium about her terrible future doesn't reflect Star Trek Discovery Season 2 because of the nature of the Krenim temporal flaw and Stamets fix. Burnham, Rayner, and Stamets nullify everything they did by removing the time bug before the next loop. Thus, for example, young Burnham won't recall her battle with her future self. This implies that Arium will still choose to give her life in Discovery Season 2 on her own initiative and not as a result of Captain Burnham's influence. Rayner and the crew of the USS Discovery are finally connecting. Callum in Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, Keith Rennie's Commander Rayner keeps getting better and better. In response to Burnham's directive in the last episode to connect with the Discovery crew, Rayner shows how attentive he was during his quick one-on-one talks. In addition to giving Burnham the motivation she needs to keep trying, Rayner and Stamets seem to get along because they are both old dogs with a penchant for gruff candor. The most significant relationship Rayner has is with General Reese, whom he harshly rejects at the beginning of the episode about his theory on Moll and Lack. Taken back to Reese's early years as a lieutenant, Rayner establishes a rapport with the youthful officer by sharing a passion for Constitution-class starships. Because of their relationship, Rayner is able to persuade the officer to set down his phaser and let him and Stamets carry out their plan. Finally, Rayner in the 32nd century recognizes the importance of Reese's tactical judgment that Moll and Lack would just pursue Discovery to the next clue. In the 5th episode of Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, Where Are Moll and Lack? In Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 4, the Krenim time flaw forced the USS Discovery crew to lose 6 hours to Moll and Lack. When Lieutenant Commander Joanna Woskun, who has returned to Tsinkithi space in the 32nd century, follows Moll and Lack's trail, it abruptly ends, indicating that they have presumably vanished. A dead spaceship trail right before the Mirrors episode of Star Trek Discovery would undoubtedly support the mirror universe theory presented in Season 5 of the show. It's possible that Moll and Lack have transitioned into another world, which is why their trail ends abruptly. Alternately, given the Romulan link in Star Trek Discovery Season 5, their ship might have made use of an interphasic cloak, first shown in the episode The Next Phase of Star Trek The Next Generation. Lieutenant Geordi LaForge and Ensign Rolaren were effectively transformed into ghosts by interphasic cloaking technology, rendering them invisible to their other crew members. Therefore, it's plausible that Moll and Lack found more than just a Romulan puzzle box in the Season 5 premiere of Star Trek Discovery. This means that when the treasure hunt moves on to a new phase, they may have a significant tactical advantage over Burnham and the crew.